Hey, welcome to episode 163 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. And the last thing I have to tell you, the last thing I wanted to do in high school was either play football or weightlifting competitions. And and yet today my sorry, something in my mouth. That was awkward. Starting this off on a good awkward for that's amazing. Yet today my guest has coached people in both these areas to tremendous success. And back in high school, I would never have dreamt of wanting to do an hour interview with a football coach. For heaven's sakes, I mean, what would I have to contribute? What? But my friends, we can learn from everybody. Everybody has a story. Everybody has wisdom to share, and to me, it makes a life so much richer. So with that, I'll be back to tell you more about our guest in just a second.
Today's guest, Scott Svendsen.
Welcome back. Check this out. Scott Svendsen has coached the European League in Scotland, helping the program return to its respective roots. He took Texas Katy high school to two state championships and helped coach Team USA to a gold medal in the American Football Global Games. Not too shabby. Oh, did I mention he also coached state championships in the sport of powerlifting and was also named Teacher of the Year for Alvarado ISD in 2019. Please help me welcome Scott to the program. Yay!
Hey, Jason, how we doing?
Amazing. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. It's been a good Monday, and we're off and running, and it's been a really good day today.
That's awesome.
When you get to work with kids on a day-to-day basis and try to mold them and make a difference and be part of that, it's always exciting going in day to day.
So when you were like 7, did you already know that you wanted to be a teacher and coach?
From a very young age, I've always wanted to do one of two things. I was either going to be a coach and a teacher, or I was going to be a minister. And so I had to make a decision in life when I came to that crossroads and what I wanted to do. And I just felt like I wanted to work with young people on a day-to-day basis. And I felt like that's where God was leading me, where I could make a bigger difference. And so go ahead.
Oh, what were you going to say?
And I was just going to say, and because of the influence of teachers and coaches in my life, I just felt like that was just the best way to give back to society and glorify God.
So you you've had amazing opportunities as a coach. You must have grown up in a big city with lots of opportunities, and right?
Well, growing up, actually, I grew up in Eureka, South Dakota, and
How big is that?
Eureka is only a town. Right now, it's a town of about 800 people. When I was growing up and going through Eureka, it was probably about 1,400 people. So, like any small town in South Dakota, it's kind of dying out a little bit, but it's still a great community with great people, and it's always been that way. All the people that I was around in that community were a positive influence on me, and I was just blessed to be in such a fine community as Eureka. I mean, it really was a blessing. It's not a big place, but it's a family-friendly place where you do have opportunity. Now, those opportunities are a little different, but we still got a fine education. There's still places where you could work as a teenager. We still had opportunities to be involved in extracurricular activities. And so those were all present in that community by good, strong people, all right, that were a positive influence on me.
So to fulfill your goal of being a teacher and a coach, you could have stayed local and coached and been a teacher. How did life lead you to Texas and to all these amazing opportunities?
When I was young, growing up, watching football on TV, football's always been I love all athletics. Don't get me wrong. I love running track. I love basketball. I love baseball and then powerlifting. There's all kinds of avenues there. And those things are great. But even things outside of that, like band and chorus, one act play, school newspaper, being an officer in the student government, all those things were part of me, and those are things that I've done in the past.
Wait! You did all those things you listed in high school?
Yes, I was. Yes. Now, band. I started band in junior high. I didn't last long, but I gave it a try. I loved it, but you know why I quit band?
Because you were doing 20 other things.
Because I was missing PE class or I was missing recess during lunch hour, and that's when band was, and I couldn't stand it that they were talking about the games every day coming in. So that's why I didn't continue with it. But music is so important in young people's lives, and it really is. And so, yes, I try to be active in our school and be part of all that. But athletics is the thing that spoke to me the most. And out of athletics, and I learned from, like I said, all those different avenues, I learned a lot of different things. But athletics spoke more strongly to me than the other things did. And within athletics, we just all those different sports were just great. The competition, just being around other people and testing your limits on a day-to-day basis. But football was the one that I just felt the most passionate about. And so that's the one I pursued and went after. Now, what led me down to Texas and those opportunities? I always watched University of Texas on TV when I was young. They were really good. Earl Campbell days and all that kind of stuff. And in fact, I ended up coaching at the high school where Earl Campbell played. And
No way.
Oh yeah, I did. And I got to meet Earl Campbell. And it was a couple of times I did. It was a pretty neat experience. And so, but watching.
You coached at Katy High School or Katy?
That one, Earl Campbell played at in Tyler, Texas, at Tyler High School, at John Tyler High School. That was his high school, and I did spend a couple of years there. And during that time there, I worked with a guy on the coaching staff that was a teammate of Earl Campbell's. And then Earl Campbell would show up to the games once in a while, or show up in town once in a while, and sign autographs and do whatever. So that's how we would meet him.
So you were watching Earl Campbell on TV, and
Yes,
suddenly he's showing up to games.
Yeah, it's pretty neat experience. But I just felt like that was something I wanted to do. It was always kind of in the back of my mind going up through high school, going through college, that if I ever had an opportunity to go to Texas and coach high school football, that I would jump on the opportunity. And that opportunity did present itself. And a guy from South Dakota was down there coaching, and he was looking for someone to come down there and help him. And so I got wind of it, contacted the guy, and we talked, and got the job offered over the phone, and went down to a place called Ranger, Texas. That's where I started.
So wait, how did you end up getting wind of this opportunity in Texas?
Well, because we knew each other, and through friends that I knew. All right, everybody. I mean, just like me and you talking at a gathering, and that's how that came about. And someone just let me, was talking about so and so's down in Texas, and yeah, he was kind of looking for some guys, whatever. I said, really? And so we started talking, and so I got his number, and then we started talking about the opportunity there.
It's amazing how the trajectory of our lives can change based on just a conversation.
Right, no doubt about it. And when God wants you to go somewhere, He's gonna find a way to get you there. And so I just felt like that was a God thing, just for me to even know about that opportunity. And then when visiting with people, and then the opportunity presented itself, that's all a God thing. That's not a me thing. That's just God letting an opportunity present itself right there. And so if I was willing to open the door and walk through it, that's what I did.
So you were presented an opportunity, but then you still had to open the door and say yes to the opportunity.
Sure, yeah, it takes some prayer, it takes some consideration, and I just felt like that's what God wanted me to do and where He wanted me to go. I think in faith, we all have to act on it. God's asking us to do something. I think we need to follow that, in being faithful to God, in walking through that door. I mean, even though Jonah was called to go to Nineveh and preach, and what did Jonah do? He got into a ship and went completely the other direction. Well, God wanted him to go to Nineveh. And so he can't run from God, right? And so where did Jonah end up? He ended up in Nineveh preaching the word of God to the Ninevites to save them from destruction.
This ties into coaching high school boys to play football because part of them wants to go for the game and wants the accolades and stuff, but I'm sure part of them is like, oh, can I do this? Oh, I don't want to be tackled. So how do you help young men get themselves more aligned with the rigors of being a football player?
I think when kids are young, you have to, you're just talking little league through junior high, and then sub varsity to varsity. That's kind of the step a lot of kids take. And so what you have to do is first make the game fun, and then second, you teach them the fundamentals of the game as young players, because tackling and hitting somebody, that's really not a natural thing that humans want to do, right? And so it's not. But what you do in that process is you set them up to have success in situations that will present itself in a game situation. So in teaching them tackling, you don't just go out there, put a helmet and shoulder pads on right away and just start, tackling full tilt right away. You got to have a step-by-step process to give them confidence to tackling in the right manner. And then, then coming to a live situation and learning how to tackle live. So you have to have them have little successes in order to get to that big success. So you're building confidence in when you do that.
So little step-by-step success is important to becoming a champion.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. If you have confidence in doing the little things and then you do those little things well on a day-to-day basis, then when the bigger things come on a day-to-day basis and you continue to do things in the right manner and have success, well, when you get into bigger games, you have that confidence in you because you've already mastered the things that you have to do to put you in that situation. And so once you're in that situation, you should have that confidence to go into that situation and, win that situation or play that situation or compete in that situation.
So here's something I'm really curious about that you probably have a perspective on. For those of us who are not who are not oh say game for those of us, I'll just say who didn't follow the athletic track,
Sure.
it's easy to look at athletes who do really well and say, oh, they're just naturally talented. How much of athletic success is natural talent versus how much of it is other things?
Right. And I think, and obviously talent plays into that, but I've seen very talented guys not work hard and not use their talent the right way that want to go to the big time but never make it because they didn't work their talent or bring their talent and develop it in the way it should be developed. And then I've seen guys with not a lot of talent work extra hard, all right, and develop skills and abilities and work their way to the big show. And so that's kind of a two-way deal. It's there's a lot of gifted people out there, and obviously NFL players, NBA players, track stars, all these people that are on the big skate, soccer players, and I'm not going to forget that, but all these different athletics, there's a lot of talented guys that have developed their talent. They've worked very hard. You don't see that behind the scenes, all right? Because what you see is Sunday afternoon and all the glory and the accolades. But
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
but what you don't see is the other, all right? Football season, starts in August, finishes for the NFL, finishes in February, right? January, February with the Super Bowl. But what you don't see is the other months where all those athletes are working on a day-to-day basis, taking care of their body, developing their body, strengthening their bodies, running their bodies, competing with each other, in the off season to prepare themselves for the season that approaches. And high school kids are that way as well. I mean, there's a lot of kids that have worked hard to get themselves so they can be a starter on a team. But really, if you look at it, it's no different than a piano player or a tuba player or a trumpet player. There's some people there that are naturally gifted to play those things or instruments. All right. But a lot of those people that have that talent, they work at that talent and develop that talent so that they can reach their potential. And then obviously there are some that don't reach that potential and just never seem to make it. Does that make sense?
As a coach, how do you? I mean, a lot of it's ultimately up to the person whether they are going to do the work or not. But how, as a coach, do you try and instill a, a powerful work ethic?
Well, sure. I mean, as a coach, we're obviously trying to prepare them for what's on the field of competition, right? And through those things, you find out what motivates a kid. What motivates that kid to be a starter? Does he want to start? In some schools, you have young talent come in and they want to start as a freshman or sophomore. Well, then my question is, what are you going to do? You set goals? I think that's one thing that's important. And so you set goals. What are the things that you have to do to be a starter on this varsity team? If that's your goal, what are the things you have to do? And so They list their goals and they tell us the things that they want to do. All right. And then my next question is, what is the price you're going to pay to achieve that goal? Right. And so are you willing to work on a day-to-day basis? Are you willing to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get to the weight room from 6 to 8 every day when we have summer lifting and conditioning? Right. And the kids that are willing to do that, those are the kids that are motivated, all right, to reach their goals. There are
You
some,
said in the summer. This
yeah,
is in the summer from 6 to 8.
in the morning, yes.
They're waking up at 6 in the morning in the summer.
Yeah, 6 in the morning. There's programs that do that. I mean, like at Katy High School, when I was at Katy, we've got over 800 kids in the summer that come through and it's boys and girls from different sports as well. But we have 800 kids that come through the summer program. All right. So you can't work all 800 kids out at 1 hour. So you have groups. So you group them up by their sports and by their levels as far as grade. Grade like 10 or 11 and 12 would go to a group. 9 and 10 might be in a different group. But there are some groups that have to come in at 6 o'clock, and they have to work out from 6 to 8. And so those kids, are you willing to pay that price to do it, right? And if kids are working in the summertime and they have jobs because kids are going to make money in the summer, well, then you're going to have to work out at 6 to 8 in the morning before they go to work. A lot of kids do that, all right? A lot of kids do that. Well, then if they don't want to do that, well, then you open up the weight room after work, and then they can come after work too. But you find a way for kids to be successful. But the bottom line is this, is what motivates kids. You got to find out what motivates them. And then you got to start poking those buttons to motivate them to get them up there at 6 o'clock in the morning or whenever you're having workouts or for practice every day or for whatever it might be. But I think you have to find out what motivates that person, and then you have to find out and set goals, all right? And then are they willing to pay the price to reach that goal? I think if you set goals for kids, and they don't have to be big, but you set small ones and they attain that goal, you reset the goal, set a bigger goal, they reach that goal, you set a bigger goal, so they keep going up the ladder. I think they have to, you set an ultimate goal, but I think you have to set individual or set little goals to reach that big goal along the way. So when they're having success, that motivates them that, hey, I can do this. I am getting stronger. I am getting faster. All right. And so you keep doing those little things so that they keep climbing up that ladder of reaching their goals. And so all those little successes that they're having, that comes to a big success. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of teams are doing, doing this, having kids showing up early in the morning in practice and slowly climb the ladder. But then what differentiates all those teams from a team that wins a state championship?
I think I've heard it said, I think that like at Katy High School, the guy that ran that program there, that built that program, his name was Mike Johnston. He came into Katy High School. They weren't winners. They didn't win. And people told him not to take the job. You take the job, that'll be the last job you have. But Coach Johnston always thought that if you could get Katy High School on a winning track, everybody in the community will get behind it. And so he built a culture, all right, that taught discipline, perseverance, doing the right thing, having great integrity, having great leadership, teaching young men to be great husbands, being great fathers, being great positive people for society. He just didn't teach things that were on the field. As coaches, we teach things that are off the field as well. We want them to be good human beings. And so we want to teach them about trust. We want to teach them about work ethic. We want to teach them about having strong integrity. We want them to be strong leaders in our community. So those are all intangibles that are taught along the way, right? But what most people will see is things that are happening on the field, but we're teaching characteristics and things off the field as well. And so when Coach Johnson came into Katy, he put all that into place. Now, the first 2 to 3 years, he struggled. They wanted to run him out of town. but he had a great administration in place that saw what he was doing and saw the success, even though it wasn't on the scoreboard at the time, saw the good things that were happening. And when things came into play and they started having success, the program just took off. All right. And so he had a lot of buy-in from the people around him. All right. Because of the good things that he was doing. And when success came, a whole community got behind it. I mean, on Friday nights, you could go to Katy High School. That stadium will be full. All right. 10,000 people Friday night at the stadium. It'll be full. All right. Because that community
You said
wrapped.
10,000 people?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No
Holy.
doubt about it. So you could get that many at a stadium, 8 to 10,000. I mean, when it's really big games, you're selling that place out and all the seating. Then they have grassy areas where people can come in and sit. I mean, that happens. And so like I said, my time there, I mean, Coach Johnson did a great job of putting all that into place. He put a firm foundation, and that firm foundation is still there today, and they still have success. All right. And so you got a community behind it. He painted a vision, and he had small successes along the way. And all right, the vision was fulfilled. It came into being.
So when did you come to Katy? At what point in the program?
I came there in 2000. In the 90s, all right, in the mid 90s, they started growing, and they started having a lot of success. 97, they won a state championship. All right, they started making long runs in the playoffs, and so by the time I got to Katy, it was in 2000. And we won a state championship in 2000 while I was there, and we won a state championship in 2003 when I was there. And those were the two state championships at Katy when I was there. And then also,
as a coach, what was it like to take your team to the first state championship that you won?
well, as you know, Coach Johnson was a great leader, and we would meet constantly as coaches, and then just being part of that, and then the pressure of maintaining a standard is always there. You got to make sure that your kids, the kids that I coach, were prepared for every game that we had, and just prepared for practice when we went out to practice. In 2000, I felt like our practices a lot of the times were harder than the games that we played because we were so competitive on both sides of the ball. Our kids were just outstanding kids that worked so hard in practice that when we went to games, I just felt like the games were easier than the practices. Now, I'm not saying that it always was the case, but a lot of the times it seemed that way. And so our kids I think one of the main things about having a championship team, and Coach Johnson would always say this, is that you're only as strong as the leadership you have within your team. So the leadership from year to year is going to change, and how do the seniors of that team handle that leadership, right? If you have strong leaders, you'll have strong teams. And you know what? And he would say that. He goes, we will pretty much coach you the same from year to year. Of course, we're going to add things and do things here and there and make adjustments. But as a whole, we're going to stay within the philosophies that we have. But what changes from year to year is your team and the leadership on that team. And so how strong your leaders, that's how strong your team will be.
So you were coaching. Katy's a public school, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So how do you balance I mean, you're obviously a man of deep faith. How do you show your faith as a coach within the guidelines of a school system?
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that we did, I mean, I didn't hide my faith with my kids. My kids knew that I had a faith in Jesus. All right. I didn't hide that. And if a kid ever approached me and talked to me about it, they came to me and visit with me about it, I have no problem sharing my faith with that person. Kids, you got kids that things are going well. You got kids are struggling with stuff, and kids will come and talk to you about problems that they're having because they want someone to listen to them and they want advice. And they'll ask, Coach, what do you do in these situations? And so you get an opportunity to share your faith. There's no bones about it. Whether it's in a public school, private school, wherever, that's just the way I do it, or the way I've been. But being at programs like Katy, I mean, we have like a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, in which people get, athletes. There's an opportunity for that fellowship where you have FCA leaders or student-led gatherings where they do that. We have within our on our game days, we have a Fellowship of Christian Athletes time in which we have a speaker from the outside, from the community, come in, share their faith with our kids. And so those things are kind of built in with that. And so character building, you have an opportunity to talk about characteristics that could deal with faith. And you tie those into your lessons when you deal with kids and talking about those things. But then to be an example in the community, you go to church in your community and you try to be part of that church in the best way that you can. And sometimes it's hard with the football season going. It's really hard to be part of the church community. That it really is. But I've heard it said that football is my ministry, and that's kind of how I do that, right? But still, as a person that's on the coaching staff and a part of a school district, you still want to be part of your church in the best way that you can. Maybe you can't be part of everything, but you can try to be part of something within that church.
When you were young, who really nurtured your faith journey?
Oh, there was a lot of people that did that. I went to the Lutheran Church in Eureka. Pastor Lloyd Miller was my pastor. He was a big influence on me, and in sharing that faith in Sunday school, in catechism, and whatever, for baptism and communion and for confirmation. He did that. But then there was also other students in the high school that would have church, be part of the church gatherings on Wednesday nights. I was part of the church choir for kids, and Bonnie Shalkowski was the leader of that. She had a great influence on us. And then there was a couple of students that would have Bible studies at their houses, and we would attend that once in a while. And so there's different kinds of people that pour into your life, and they might not know it, but they plant seeds for you, right? I might be a person that, I want to see someone, be a Christian, but in that process, I might be the person that just sows the seeds, and and God just might have me just do that. Whereas down the line, someone might present the full gospel to that person, and they listen to it, and they said they want to be a Christian. So someone gets to be part of that process. But I think there's different things and different people, all right, that influence a person's decision, all right, to be a Christian. And whether I just sow seeds, all right, and throw things out there for them to listen to, because maybe down the line they're going to go back, hey, I remember when Coach Svendsen said this about his faith. I can relate to that now. That might not come to fruition until later in life. And so you just do what you can, and whatever that is, whatever God has you to do, or wherever He leads you, that's just kind of how you do it. And so, whether it's openly or living your life in such a manner as they can see your faith, and just talking with people about it.
Speaking of doing what you can, now you're back in South Dakota, and you're tutoring young people. What is that like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in South Dakota. I'm working for the Sioux Falls School District. I'm working on a federal grant, and that federal grant has to do with absenteeism, and where kids have missed a large chunk of school and they're behind in school. And so as a result of being behind, I think they don't have confidence in coming back to school. And so you've got to build You've got to build those little successes. Here we go. We're talking about things that I talked about earlier, but you have to have them have little successes so that we get them back into the full flow of school again. And so we get them into school, we tutor them, through the tutoring, I try to mentor them a little bit. And then you try to, get them success in math class or social studies or language arts or science. All right. And so we try to get them back into the flow of things. And with some kids, it really is a struggle to get them back in the flow of things. We're dealing with kids that have gone through COVID years. So they've missed a lot of school, didn't attend school physically. They did it through online services. And even through the online services, they probably didn't do a lot of that either. I don't know. And so you're dealing with some kids that have had some very limited years of school. And so we're trying to build that back up where they want to be educated, where they want to have an education. And like I tell students, what education does for you, it gives you tools and empowers you so that when you graduate from high school, you can function better in society. And I think that's important for our young people to understand that and know that. And sometimes they really don't understand or know that.
What would you say to a young person? And I smile because I can imagine myself saying this. Well, math is boring, or social studies is boring. So why should I even try?
Well, that's the same way when I was in school. I mean, we've all kind of gone through that a little bit. Why we all have to have, why am I in school? What am I doing here? Why am I doing this algebra? I don't use y and x squared on anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't use that in my checkbook, or I don't do that when I'm doing. But what we want them to do is just to gain knowledge and understanding and expand their minds so that they can function. We just try to get them to understand that. Maybe I didn't understand that right away, but I still went to school every day because I knew it was important to do. Because what I did for myself is I had goals for myself and what I wanted to do. And so for me to fulfill those goals, education was important. It was a tool for me to have. And I think a lot of young people today don't understand or have goals that they set before them. I don't think they think a lot about that. I mean, a lot of kids are on social media. They're looking at what everybody else wants to do. They want, and with social media being having the influence it has, it's about instant gratification. And so a lot of these kids think it needs to happen right now, whereas education is a process, right? You're not going to get your diploma after the 6th grade. You're not going to get it after the 7th grade. You're not going to get it after the 8th grade. You have to wait until you're a senior to get that diploma. All right. Unless you take a test early and get your GED and get out. Right. But you still got your diploma, but it's still a process. And in this world of instant gratification, that's a tough thing to sell to kids. You've got a lot of kids that are motivated, and you've got some kids that are not so motivated. And so what you have to do is find the things that motivate them and tie the education in with that and get them to come to school on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that it's hard. And to me, the big thing is you have to get parents behind that, and you have to have parents to have a buy-in. And sometimes I don't think, this is just me, I don't think all parents have a buy-in to helping their kids, all right, have a great education. So I think that's some of it as well.
Is playing sports a motivator for some kids? Like, if you do well in school, you can keep playing sports.
Well, I think extracurricular activities, whether it's band, whether it's drama, whether it's athletics, I think if a kid excels in those things, all right, I think that can help kids stay in school, because what motivates them is they get up every day going like, well, I need to get to basketball practice because I'm a good basketball player. We got a big game tonight, but if I don't go to school, then I don't probably get to play in that game. And if I miss a lot of school, then I'm going to miss a lot of practice, and then I'm not going to be part of the basketball team anymore. And so what motivates students is that extracurricular activity. If the marching band is going to go to New York City and play at the Macy's Day Parade, well, don't you think that motivates that kid to get to school every day so that they can prepare themselves in band? And they don't want to miss, because if they miss so many days, well, they probably don't get to go to the Macy's Day Parade in New York City. So those are things that would motivate kids to get up to the school building. And a large percentage of kids are involved, and that's what motivates them and gets them up there. And if that's what it takes to get kids up to school, well, thank goodness we got a tool to get them up to school and something to motivate them. But you have some kids that are not involved in anything. And those are the kids that probably struggle more in school because they're not involved with anything. They're not involved with other people. Now, don't get me wrong. You've got kids that aren't involved that are very academically strong, and academics motivates them to get to school. I get that. But there's a handful of kids that are out there, a small percentage, that aren't involved, that aren't motivated to come to school, and you have to find a way to get those kids to school.
So how do you do that?
That just circles back to what we were saying earlier, is that you got to try to set goals with these kids. Give them a goal. What do you want to do with your life? All right. And so, I mean, do you want to make money? Do you not want to make money? Do you want to make a lot of money, little money? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to make a difference in your community? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Or do you want to work at McDonald's all your life? What do you want to do? You got to try to get them to think about that. All right. And then with that, if you're going to work at McDonald's, and there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but then here's your salary, what you're going to get on a yearly basis. If you want to be a doctor, all right, you're going to have to work to be a doctor, but in the end, you're going to make a lot of money. And then here's where your money value is here. So you got to, and then you're going to interact with people in a different way in those two kind of jobs. So you got to figure out what you want to be. Personally, I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to be a coach. Am I making a lot of money doing it? Nope, I'm not making a lot of money. But what I feel like are different intangibles that are important to me. Am I making a difference in someone else's life in a positive way? I get a chance to mold kids and work with kids and try to make a positive difference. And whatever that might be to turn the light bulb on for them, I hope that I can be part of that process. So those are things that are eternal things, which are to me a higher value than making $500,000. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't mind making $500,000 teaching and coaching. Don't get me wrong there. But, all right, the important thing is the eternal value of what we're trying to put into kids, of making that difference. That's really basically, that's the bottom line, all right? Because if I'm on my deathbed or when I'm old and I'm gray, that money isn't going to matter. The question to me is, did I make a difference for my family? All right? Did I make a difference for my family? And did I make a difference in other people's lives? To me, that's the bottom line right there. And if I did make a difference, did I make a positive difference? And did I make a powerful impact on others? That's what I think is important.
That it sounds powerful that you have that insight about what you want to do, because it means you can focus on moving your actions in that direction.
Right. And let me add on to that. As being a Christian, what's even more important is giving glory to Jesus and bringing others to Jesus as I'm walking through this life, as I'm going through this life. That's really where all the accolades and the glory, that's where it all needs to go to. It needs to go to Jesus. All right. It needs to go to God, not to me. Now, I'm on an earthly plateau here, and those things happen, but those are things that ultimately, that's God doing that. I'm just happy to be blessed to be in a right situation and have that opportunity, and I'm humbled by those opportunities. But ultimately, all right, that glory goes to God. All right. And that's ultimately my ultimate goal, is that I lead others to Christ in my words and my actions, the things I do. And like I said, I'm not always perfect. All right. And I'm not a preacher and whatever, but I try to do my best all right, to give God glory and to live by that standard.
What do you do when, I mean, there's people around who don't want to hear the religious things you're talking about. So what I mean, there's a lot of people who do want to hear that, but then there's some people who don't. What do you, or how do you think of the people who don't want to hear what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah, there are people that don't want to hear it, and they don't want you talking about it, and sometimes they won't say anything, sometimes they will, and I'll just let them know out of love. I mean, I'm not going to preach out of hate or talk to them out of hate. I'm going to do everything out of love, and let them understand this is my faith, this is the way I live, these are the standards that I try to live up to, which I fail many times. Believe me, I fail many times to live up to the standard that Jesus wants me to live up to. But that's where his grace and mercy and forgiveness come in. And thank God for that. All right. And so, because of Jesus' death and resurrection, because of his death on the cross and his resurrection from the grave, that's where my hope is. Because once again, I didn't do it. All right. All the good things in life that I can do, and you know this as well as I do, they're just filthy rags in the eyes of God. Because the bottom line is, if I have Jesus in my heart, all right, that's my ticket to salvation. That's it. That's the bottom line. All right. But out of my love for Jesus, I try to do what's right. All right. And that's how I try to respond to it. And but once again, I am a complete sinner. I have failed more than most, but because of God's forgiveness and grace, I can live and walk in that path. Now, others don't want to hear about that, and I'm going to come back to because they maybe haven't fully tried to look at it themselves, or maybe they've had a bad experience at a church or with someone they might see as a hypocrite, and so forth, right? I mean, and so something would bring them. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're coming with a scientific approach and say there's not enough evidence. Well, I would tend to disagree with that. If you really study and look at the evidence scientifically or not scientifically, the evidence is there. All right. Even the rocks of creation cry out that there is a God. All right. We just didn't happen. And so I think it takes more faith in the scientific part to believe in evolution than it does to believe that there's intelligent design. I mean, so I can throw the other side out at people as well. But whether if they want to hear it or not, I mean, if I'm talking to someone, they say, hey, I don't really want to talk about it, I might talk a little bit longer, and that's it. I mean, I'm going to respect that person's, all right, I'm going to respect that person, and that's fine. That's their choice, all right? I'm not going to force myself on anybody, and I'm not going to just, throw things out that people don't want to hear. If they don't want to hear it, that's their choice. But I'm going to live at a standard. I'm going to try to live at a standard that God wants me to live.
You've said you've made lots of mistakes in life, but as I read your bio, I saw all these amazing things that you've done. How do we conceive of that? Like each of us do great things, and then also have challenges.
Yeah,
How do we think about that?
yeah. I mean, let's look at the life of David. David was the greatest king of Israel, right? But even David had his flaws. I mean, obviously, he killed a man, slept with a woman that wasn't his wife and was someone else's wife. And so David had his flaws too, but yet David had a heart for God, and God knew his heart. All right. But David was a human, right? And so as humans, we have flaws. And so we have to deal with those flaws. We have to strengthen those flaws, and we have to understand our weaknesses, and then we have to learn how to maneuver around those weaknesses. And so, as a father of a household, and I'm just being real and honest. my wife left me and filed for divorce with me a while back. And so I believe a lot of that has to do with my career because I put a lot of time and effort into my career. And sometimes your family gets neglected in that. And so maybe I wasn't as strong of a father as I should have been in my house. And a lot of it fell on her shoulders. She's a strong woman, but a lot of it fell on her shoulders. And maybe there's resentment because of that. And so I think, I come back to saying that my career probably cost me a marriage. And so my flaw is one of my many flaws is I'm a workaholic. I will work and I will work and I will work until I feel like the job is getting done. And so, because I want things to be done in a certain standard and right. And sometimes I'm not always the smartest person in the room, but I'm going to work to get it done and figure out a way to beat you and to have it done in the right way. And so I'm a competitive person, and I'm going to outwork you, and I'm going to find a way to get it done. But ultimately, that's one of my flaws. And I've got many other flaws, but besides all those other things that happen, and people, you've got a lot of good people that do many good things and amazing things, but sometimes you don't see their flaws, but they do have flaws.
What would you say to a man or woman who is going through a divorce right now and is really at a point where they're struggling?
Boy, I just divorce has been the most ugliest, or has been the ugliest thing that I've ever been through in my life.
Hmm.
I didn't want the divorce. I mean, I wanted to keep our marriage together. She just didn't feel like it was going to work that way, and that's her choice, and I have to respect that. I mean, I don't like it, but I have to respect that. And as the leader of a household that a father should be, I always felt like we were arm in arm and we led together. But I take responsibility probably for not that working out as it should, and I have a big part of that. But my whole thing is divorce is ugly, and whether you both agree to it or not, it's still ugly. And try to work it out. Find a way to work it out. Go to counseling. Keep it God centered, and find a way to work through it. And it's just a hard thing. It really is a hard thing. But marriage isn't just about having the marriage ceremony on your wedding day, and then life's going to be hunky dory along the rest of the life. It's not that way. Being married is a tough thing, but in the end, all right, it's a gratifying thing. And so I miss family. All right, I do. I miss family on a day-to-day basis. I miss that partnership. I miss that interaction. But right now, that's reality for me. But so at all costs, try to work it out. Find a way to work it out. Go the extra mile to work it out, and go to counseling and see if you can get it taken care of. But be real and honest with one another as to what's going on and how can we get this resolved. If you look at the basic family unit in America today, probably in our world today, that's why I think that we have some of the problems we have in society, because I believe the family is your basic unit. And when the basic unit is broken, I think society gets broken. And we have a high rate of divorce in America now, higher than it's ever been. And we've got families that are broken, and society, as a result, I believe, all right, is broken as well because of the basic fabric of society breaking down. So that's just my thoughts on that.
So, what what's your vision for the next years of your life in terms of healing from divorce, and what do you want to create? You're a master creator. You've coached championship teams, and what's next?
Well, you know what? Just like in the past, as coaches, we tell our athletes, hey, you have to, like in football, you get tackled or something bad happens, you have to get up and there's another play coming. So you have to get to the next play, right? And so whether it was a bad play, get to the next play and let's get something good to happen, right? And so, the next parts of my life, I just want to see where God's going to lead me. Sitting here I'm in Sioux Falls. I'm glad to be in Sioux Falls. I love being in Sioux Falls. I love the South Dakota people. It's not that I don't love Texas. I love Texas now, don't get me wrong, but God wants me here. He wants me here away from, just away from everything. Is giving me time to, regroup and then refocus and, strengthen me as a man. And so that's what he's doing to me right now. And that's what's going on. I'm trying to just regroup and strengthen myself and strengthen my faith and just seeing where God wants me to go. I mean, it could be back into, I haven't coached the last 2 years, but I've done some consulting with other groups of people as far as football, going and talking to them about football and answering questions or helping out, maybe scouting or whatever it might be. I've done some of that to kind of keep me in the loop. I've had people, call me up and talk to me about getting back in. I just said I'm not ready at this time. But I mean, I'm to the point right now where I've been out of it, where I'm thinking about getting back into it. And so I just got to make sure that decision is the right decision. But I just got to see where God wants me to go. And so that's going to take a lot of prayer and just being in his word on a day-to-day basis and trying to figure that out. And so I've got to lean on Jesus in order to see where I'm supposed to be.
So in my work, I talk about the power of doing our imperfect best, and what it means to me is we have the vision of what's of the best we want, and as we start going towards that, when mistakes happen, when obstacles come up, instead of using them as reasons to quit, we use them as reasons to learn and reasons to become stronger. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
Just looking back on life, like you said, your successes and then your failures and your ups and your downs and this and that and the challenges and obstacles. It's not always going to be perfect, but I think as long as I'm waking up in the day and excited about living, which I am, I want to get up and get going. But I want to continue to make a difference in this world in a positive way and let my faith be the forefront of that. But in whatever way that I can do it from a day-to-day basis, all right, that's what I want to do. I just want to be a positive light, for the Lord. And I don't always have to speak about the Lord to do that, all right, because people can see and people will know that you're just a little different than some other people. And maybe because of trying to be positive on a day-to-day basis or having enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is nothing more than being positive, and that's how I want to face the day every day. Am I always enthusiastic? No, sometimes there's days where you're not, but you got to get up and go to work and be around young people, and I feed off of young people because they excite me, because they have so much opportunity. They don't understand the opportunity and potential in front of them. As a 60-year-old person that's lived 60 years, I'm not 13 or 14 anymore or 18, but I know what, lies ahead for them, and you got to help them to see that. And I think that's what's important to me. If you can get them to see it, all right, then they can understand better about the things that we're trying to do for them in education or in athletics or curricular activities or whatever it might be, and giving them advice. They can see that advice a little bit different light, all right, and see the potential that they have for themselves and start looking at the potential and being serious about developing that potential. They have to understand what their gifts and abilities are, all right, what they're blessed with, and then, all right, let those things flourish. All right. Use those gifts and abilities and let them flourish for a positive difference in society. I mean, that's that's how I see things, and that's what I want to do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Scott, and thanks for all the good you create in the world and are part of. I
Well,
appreciate you being here.
I thank you for the opportunity, Jason, of letting me be here and share and do some things. But what you're doing, all right, and just meeting you for the first time, I could tell that there was something different about you, because when we visited and talked, I could see your light shine through. I could see it, and so I knew that there was something different about you. And our conversation was awesome the first time we met. I felt I walked away
Which
from.
is funny because it was so loud in the room we were having to shout at each other.
But we still communicated though. But the more the other chances that we've had a chance to talk, through conversation or whatever, text messages or phone calls or whatever, all right, it's been awesome visiting with you. And even after this podcast, we still need to go out and do lunch sometime and stay in contact, because what you're doing is you're making a positive difference and you're utilizing your gifts and abilities in a positive way, all right, and sharing these experiences and talking with other people. You're sharing your experiences, but then you're also sharing other people's experiences on a different scale. And I think that's awesome.
Hey, thank you, my new friend. I appreciate it.
Yep. No problem. No problem at all. Good deal.
Um, Such a powerful conversation. In this podcast, haven't talked really up to this point about someone's faith journey and the way Scott talked about it, but and it's common to want to avoid talking about religion sometimes, but I believe in celebrating the best in my guest, and his faith is as you can hear crucial to his journey. So I mean, we could have talked all the for an hour about football and coaching and then mentoring youth, but when something is so crucial to someone, why not talk about it and celebrate it and think about how it matches with our own journey and how it's different. I believe in the power of conversation to unite us as people, and we're all different, and so there's a huge bridge for conversation to have, but it can be done. We can care for each other and inspire each other on our unique journeys, and also really appreciate those unique journeys. At least that's what I believe in and what I'm living. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm tuning in next week for another exciting guest.